Today we're solving equations using addition and subtraction properties of equality. The first thing we're going to talk about is the addition property. If A is equal to B, then it doesn't matter what I do to A and B as long as I do the same thing. If I add C, an equivalent amount to both sides, I'm still in balance and the equation is still equal. We call this the addition property of equality. The same goes if I subtract the same quantity from both sides. If A is equal to B and I subtract C from both sides, my equation is still in balance. Are there any questions? Okay, let's try it. All right. Oops. Now I can write that to the right of it, or I can write it underneath it. It doesn't matter. So here's an example of a scale. If I just subtract 2 from both sides, what's going to happen to my scale?
It's gonna go down.
What's going to go down, the right or the left?
The left.
The right is going to go down because it's heavier, right? So as long as I do it to both sides, it will stay in balance. This algebraically, it can look like this, or it can look like this. You don't have to write this part. You can just kind of listen through it. Notice I'm showing my subtraction property of equality underneath it or to the right. Are there any questions? All right. So our rules for transforming equations. Number 1, and you can abbreviate this. Your goal is always to isolate the variable on one side. Isolate the variable. Get it alone. Number 2, always perform the same operation to both sides of the equation. And number 3, to undo an operation, we perform its opposite operation to both sides of the equation. I usually just write opposite operation. Number 1, I say isolate. Number 2, same operation, both sides. And number 3, I write opposite operation. Undo, opposite operation. Undo with an arrow to opposite operation. Now, I want you to leave space for 4 and 5, but we're going to move on and do some practice problems. So skip a couple lines. Pause the recording and finish your notes. Because these are so simple, we're going to do a little Sage and Scribe just so we can learn how to do it. What would I do to, number 1, what would I do to get x all alone, to isolate it? Yes? Subtracting 6 from both sides of the equation. And now I'm left with x equals -4. All right, so, sorry, +4. I'm recording. Okay, so what a Sage and Scribe is going to do is one person is going to be a writer, and let's say the person on the left at the table is going to be a writer, that's the scribe, and the person on the right is going to be the sage, who is the wise man. The wise man is the only one that's allowed to speak. The scribes get paid very little. They are the lowly scribes, and they are not allowed to speak unless spoken to, okay, or asked a question. The only thing a scribe is allowed to do is say to their sage, "Are you sure?" But they are not allowed to give knowledge to the sage, because the sage is the all-powerful, all-wise man. Okay, so raise your hand in the seat if you are on the right side. So let's go. Okay, let's make it. Let's go your right. No, you're not on the right side of that desk. I'm going to be the right. Okay, if you are on the right, we'll make you these scribes. Everybody raise your hand if you're on the right. This row, this row, this row. Perfect. You guys are the writers. Now, raise your hand if you are a sage. I want to see all hands up if you are a sage. Excellent. So our sages know who they are. So you are going to describe to your scribe what you want them to write down. For instance, who wants to be my sage right now? Come on up, Gracie. Tell me what to do. Okay.
Well, you would
No, you would add 3 to both sides of the equation. So that would be y equals 18.
Excellent. Now, I'm going to explain the next time, the next round, I'm going to explain to you, and you're going to write. Ready? Here, sit down. All right. So first thing I want you to do is add 7 to both sides.
Are you sure?
Oh, you're right. I have to do the opposite operation. I am going to subtract 7 from both sides.
Whoops.
It doesn't matter. And now I'm left with n equals 5. But I do want you, I don't care that you wrote the equal sign in the middle. I want you to work on, guys, perfect. She did it perfect. Okay. I want you to work on keeping that equal sign lined up. Do you see it? So we're going to keep building on that. All right, are there any questions? Okay, we're going to try Sage and Scribe. Let's first do number 4. Ready? Everybody's doing number 4. Am I going to be the scribe, or the ones on the right, the scribes? Yeah. Okay, I'm coming over there, Noah. Put the notebook down. Okay, ready? When you guys are done, thumbs up. Pause the recording. All right, so you should check your answers. And this last one, we just simplify. There's no property of equality. And now we have decimals. We're going to read our decimals properly. 2 and 1/10. I'm going to subtract 2 and 1/10 from both sides. Then I'm left with x is equal to 5 and 8/10. All right. Let's try one more. What are we doing? Actually, let's Sage and Scribe number 2 and number, let's go 2 and number 2, 4, and 5. Go. 2, 4, and 5. Pause the recording. All right, let's check our work. 2, we got 19 and 4/10 is equal to n. 4, we got 6 and 8/10 is equal to t. And 5, we got 3 and 7/10 is equal to n. N equals 3 and 7/10. Are there any questions? Are there any questions about Sage and Scribe? What time are we out at? 40?
40.
Oh, good. Okay. All right, so now we also have some word problems. When we have word problems, especially with some difference, quotient and product, I send it some difference, quotient and product. When I see the word sum, what does that mean? Addition. I'm going to send it to the closest and. I think it would be, write these word problems down. I'm going to pause it a minute. So they always get my videos too. They're like, in college, like, I keep getting your videos on YouTube. Hearing Miss Yamasaki's voice. The parents are like, I hear your voice at night when I'm cooking in the kitchen. Okay, the sum of k and, whoops. So when I see the operation sign sum, I send it to the and. What sign is that? What sign is that? It's a sum. So I send the addition sign there. What comes before it? Okay. What comes after it? 13. And what does the word is mean? Equals. And then we have 28. Okay, so now what am I doing? There's 2 directions in these lessons. There's two activities, like 2 things that you have to do. Translate and solve. Make sure you do both. Okay, what do I do to get k alone? And then we are left with k equals 8 minus 3 is 5, and 2 minus 1 is 1. Easy, right? Yep. Okay, why don't you try the next one? Pause the recording. Okay, so let's check our work. I'm going to have to get out of annotating. And then we should have 5 equals t minus 4. So when I see the difference, I send that minus sign to the and. what comes before it, what comes after it. Everybody's clear? Adding 4, and you should have got 9 equals t or t equals 9 at the end. Questions? All right, Matt has scored 85 on his last test. Making the word problems a little bit more complex, not too, still very easy. So notice, this is 16 points higher than he scored on his first test. What was his score on his first test? So whenever you do a word problem, what's your unknown?
X.
Well, yeah, it's X, but what does it stand for?
The first test.
In this case, it's the first test. So I want you to always define your unknown. X equals first test. On the Common Core math exam that kids have to take to get out of algebra that they used to have to take, there is a constructed response. And one of the questions, so it's a word problem, was worth 4 points. 1 point was just doing this. If you did not do this, there's no way you could get more than a 75%. Right? 1 out of 4. So now I'm going to translate, and I'm going to underline the important words. Well, we need 85. What word implies my equal sign? Yep. Is. And then I have 16. And then what other words do I need there? Elise?
Else.
Is
Well, probably higher, like points higher.
more than just higher.
Yeah, higher than.
Higher than, very important. And first test, right? So really it's 85 is 16 higher than, you don't have to do this every time. I want you to just find it. But right now you should do it. Higher than first, test. Okay? So, now I can translate. 85 is equals 16. Wait a second. What does showing higher than implies what? Addition. But we have this special word than. And when I see than, what do you need to do? Flip the term. 16 comes over here. And first test comes over here. And what do we place for first test?
X.
X. So it's right there. It's very easy. All right. What do I do next to solve?
Yeah. You subtract 16.
Subtract 16. Subtract 16. And we get, it becomes a 7. 9, 6 equals X. All right. So that means he got 69% on the first test. So these are all the things that I'm going to ask you to do. Make sense of your answer, that it's not just an X in the end. Define your unknown. And any questions? All right. We are going to go to, we're going to go to multiplication. All right. I'm going to stop the recording. That's addition and subtraction, property of equality.